What I'm making today is a 15-minute bean and tomato soup. I'm going to start off by heating the pan. Medium to medium-high heat. Get it nice and hot. Hot pot to cold oil. 2 tablespoons or 2 turns of the pan. Heat that up and add half a tablespoon of crushed red pepper and 3 cloves of garlic. Get it nice and heated up. Then we're going to add carrots, 2 carrots, 1 medium onion, we're going to add 2 ribs of celery and 1 small zucchini chopped. Get that all in there. Then we're going to sweat it for about 10 minutes until they get nice and translucent. All right, we're done sweating all the vegetables and stuff. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some chicken stock, about 2 cups I already have prepared. Add it to the vegetables, as well as 1 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes, some white cannellini beans, cut green beans, and tomato sauce. All right, we're going to stir all that together. Nice, good, thick soup. It's called a stew because it's thicker than a soup, but it's thinner than a stew. All right, once all that's stirred in, we got to let it simmer for about 5 minutes so everything can infuse and take on everybody else's flavors so that it's a good, nice, thick stew. All right, we let our soup simmer for about 5 minutes, bring it to a boil, let it all cook down. Then we're going to add a cup of parsley, but leave a little bit for garnish. Stir it all in, let it wilt a little bit. Then all that's left is to get a good bowl, big ladle, serve it up. Finish it off with a little bit of basil for garnish, Parmesan if you want. It's really good to get a baguette, slice it up, dip it because it's a little bit spicy, good crunch, good soup, stew.
I call it a holiday stir fry. First, you chop up green and red peppers, onions into small cubes, 2 chicken breasts diced up or cut up, and then in a hot wok, add oil. Then you stir this until they are browned but not too soggy. Then you add in your chicken. You periodically stir this to make sure that nothing will stick. And while that sits, the sauce we will top with it is a hoisin soy sauce mix. You heat that over a low heat till it's just when it's hot. Your food starts sticking, you just add a little more oil. Right now it is just about finished. So you would go in, for a topping you would chop up 2 green onions. And you would plate ready. Then you will take your sauce, just cover it. Then you can add your green onions for just a little more color on top of it. And that is it.
Hello, my name's Gary. Welcome to my world. I'm going to fix you a tiramisu. It's a little known dessert around this portion of the country. It's an Italian origin. The basis of it is basically a custard on top of a ladyfinger, and we're going to start by separating an egg. And in the bowl I actually have 6 egg yolks, for which I want to create a zabaione, and I'm going to show you how to do that with a little bit of sugar over some heat. And it's going to basically act as emulsifier to thicken the custard. We have some water boiling over here, and I'm going to add some sugar. It's about 3/4 cup of sugar. And we're just going to apply a little bit of heat to this. And the secret to this is patience and time. The reason being is if we let this sit on the heat, or if the bowl directly touches water, since it is boiling, it'll create scrambled eggs. Should that happen after you're finished, you can try to press it through a sieve, or a real fine sieve, to try to get some of that stuff loose and separated. If not, I suggest just start over. Okay, now that we've got the basis of our foundation here, it's a zabaione, it basically should come off of your spatula or whisk or whatever you're using, just like ribbons, and I believe that's where they get the origin of the actual name itself. To this, we're going to add mascarpone cheese. Now, mascarpone cheese is a cream cheese. From what I've heard, it comes from obviously a cow, but they feed the cow some sweet grasses and special herbs, and it gives it a lighter and more airier flavor. Now, you can go ahead and substitute regular Philly cream cheese or any other cream cheese, but I do believe it'll change the whole taste of the dish, and obviously won't be as authentic as using mascarpone. So we're going to add to this, into a bowl, we're going to add this and the egg yolk mixture that we made up earlier. And also in another mixer, if you have the luxury of having 2, we're going to beat 5 egg whites until they become stiff and form peaks. We're just going to mix this second mixture for about a minute or so. And to that, and you can omit this if you so desire, I'm going to add basically a shot of rum, and that's about 2 teaspoons, 2.5 teaspoons, depends on your flavor. If you want more, you can do that. And about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And I try to use really good stuff. I have friends that go to Mexico, so they pick up some good stuff. You can also use actual beans and have that done. And I believe it would probably be about 2 beans that would equate the 2 teaspoons of vanilla, or I'm sorry, the teaspoon of vanilla. So we're going to incorporate that. And this is basically how your egg whites should turn out. They should Stay tented. This can also be omitted if you want to, just because we're using raw eggs. As long as you use pasteurized eggs, we shouldn't have a problem, but that's going to be incorporated into the cream here when we get finished. Speaking of cream, I've got a bowl chilled over here, and in that I'm going to make and whip more fat. I told you this wasn't a diet-friendly recipe, so I'm going to add to that 2 cups of whipping cream. We're going to go ahead and mix this and get some peaks formed on the whipped cream. That's usually about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. The colder the bowl, the better. And if you so desire, I have some espresso, by the way, mixed up in here. It's about 3 cups of espresso. You can buy powdered form at the Hill in St. Louis. I believe Schnucks carries it, some of your major supermarkets in a powdered form. You mix it basically, I believe it's for every 3 ounces is 1 teaspoon. So I've got about 3 cups here. I sometimes add just a little bit to my whipping cream, just to give it a little bit of extra flavor, maybe about a tablespoon. I'm gonna add about a 1/2 cup of amaretto. Gives it a nice foundation, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna dip our lady fingers and put it into a springform pan and then create a layer. I use a springform pan because of the ease of which we're gonna cut it and plate it later. These are the lady fingers. You can get these at Schnucks, some of your major supermarkets, or you can bake them if you want to. And once we've got our cream processed, we're going to mix all this together. The Zebignon mixture, mascarpone cheese mixture, the whipped cream. You could put that in a processor again if you want to. I just like to do it by hand, incorporate a little bit more air, a little bit more gentler on it. All right, now we basically have to just start assembling. It's very easy. You take your springform pan and you take your lady fingers and you just briefly dip each lady finger in your espresso amaretto mixture, and we're going to line the entire pan. It doesn't matter how fancy you get, although when you do cut it, your patience and fanciness will show in your presentation. This will be the foundation of our layer, the first layer. We're going to then scoop out about half of our mixture on top of this. Once half of your cream is in, we'll start layering a second layer. We'll finish the rest of the pie cake with the remaining cream. Now the beautiful thing about this is a make-ahead dessert. You make it the night before the party. I certainly wouldn't make it right before, because this does have to set up for at least 12 hours in the fridge. I like topping it with cocoa. Just sprinkle cocoa on top. You can do dark chocolate shavings, anything to do with chocolate that adds to more caffeine and fat content. This gets popped into a fridge, like I said, 12 hours, let it set. I use the springform because then you can open it up, slice it, and since we're in the holidays, I'll get a little holiday cheer here. Place that on a plate, dust with a little bit of powdered sugar and bon appetito.